Hi, my name is Dave Hennessy with D Hennessy Studios on YouTube, and today I'm going to talk about taking a bus from Malaybalay on the center of Mindanao over to Cagayan de Oro, which is about 2.5, 3 hours away. And here we're walking out from our apartment towards the main street. So we're going to go out here. My wife is going to stop at the bank and get a little money out, and then we're going to take one of these multi-cab little truck down to the wet market, and that's where the bus stop is, at the wet market. But the Philippines is not a bad place. It rains a lot here. As you can see, it's kind of gray clouds. It's hot here, so it's good to have air conditioning, but it does rain every day. Now here's one of these multi-cabs that we're going to take. I'm going to jump in, and excuse my camera mess up as I get in because I'm carrying two bags, and so I kind of mess up right here. So I apologize for that. But anyway, you grab one of these things. It costs just a few pesos, and pesos to dollars. I mean, for $1 you can get a lot of pesos, so you don't really have to worry about that. It just costs a few pesos, and you just pay the guy, the driver, and sometimes he has a cohort working on the back of the multi-cab, or maybe on the he's sitting in the passenger seat. But anyway, this is Malaybalay. It's not a bad little place. Just one warning: if you're walking around any place in the Philippines and you'll have kids come up to you, don't give them money. If they want food, give them some food, but don't give them money. First of all, it's illegal. At least here in Mindanao, it's illegal. Because it usually goes to organized crime. So you have to be really careful with that. I know you feel sorry for them, but at the same time, they're just going to give it to organized crime for the most part. And that's what they say. It's illegal, so don't do it. But the ride down here, you can see lots of multi-cabs. This is in front of Gasano, which is a big grocery store. And here we are down at the wet market. Wet market's on the right with all the food, and the buses are here on the left. And what you do is you just go and you get on the bus that you want to take. They'll tell you, is it going to Cagayan de Oro? We say yes, or they say yes, and we jump on. And it's 220 pesos from Malaybalay to Cagayan de Oro. And as you're driving, they have a worker on the bus who will go around, give you a little ticket, and you give them the money. So it's $2.20 for this particular bus ride. It takes about 2.5 to 3 hours. The one thing about this bus ride is that it stops along the way. I mean, it could be just out in the middle of a farmland and someone's standing by the road, and they'll stop and pick them up or drop people off. As you can see, people getting off here. And that's kind of normal. So this is a little different than bus station to bus station. Although when it gets to a bigger village, it will stop at the bus station. And it's not there very long, maybe 5 minutes at most. It's usually very, very fast. So that's nice. And they're comfortable. This guy, when we were driving, he was playing all sorts of rock and roll. I didn't appreciate it. It was a little too heavy for me. It was a little too loud, but normally it's not too bad. Just bring your own earphones or whatever. And bring your own water. You can eat on the bus. You can drink on the bus. As you drive along, you can see that there's a wreck. And you'll see a lot of those, especially in the country, especially on this road. Seems to be a lot of those. There's some really windy corners. I didn't film the corners, but there's some really windy corners just as you're heading closer to Cagayan de Oro. And the semis are always crashing there. Every time we go, we see one that's wrecked. It's crazy. Anyway, here's one of the bus stops. We stopped for probably 4 or 5 minutes, and off it goes again. And the bus drivers are pretty competent. Again, you pay while you're on the bus, so you don't have to worry about picking up a ticket at a ticket office or anything like that. At least here in this area, that's what it's like. Now, if you're in a major city like Manila or Cebu or something like that, it might be a little different. Now, you can also they have vans. They have vans at the bus station, and you just look around and you'll see a van. A guy will come up to you and ask you want to take a van, and it costs basically the same, and it's a lot faster because it doesn't make that many stops. But they do cram people in, and that's one thing I've noticed in the Philippines. They have a tendency of really cramming people in when they can. Probably not as bad as in India or something like that, like on those trains, but or in Japan on the rail, the subway, but they can cram it in pretty good. So as you drive along, you see that there's nothing that's really outstanding as far as structures and stuff. There's a lot of poor people in the Philippines. Now, there are cars, people, they'll live in a shack and they'll drive a nice car. Here we are in Cagayan de Oro, so we're almost at the end. This is one of the longest cities I've ever been in. It takes you like an hour to go down from one end to the other. And if we went to the right, I've never been down there. I always go here to the left because that's where I get my visa and stuff. But anyway, this is Cagayan de Oro. And so that's a little bit about taking a bus. I'm really grateful that you watched this. And please subscribe, and we'll talk to you again.